Have you ever hugged a woman and felt, the very next second, like she wanted to walk away? That's not bad luck. It's a mistake that 90% of men make without even realizing it. And I only discovered this because I lived it from the other side. I was the woman who pulled away from a hug that just felt wrong. And it was that exact moment that pushed me to study this deeply, for years, until I truly understood what happens in a woman's body when she's touched the right way or the wrong way. Stay with me until the end of this video, because secret number 7 is what separates a man from a boy, and almost nobody talks about it. Before we start, let me ask you something simple. When was the last time a woman tensed up in your arms, even while smiling at you? If you can't answer that, it's even more important that you stay until the end. Most men hug to feel good themselves. You hug thinking about you, and that's exactly where you lose her. A hug isn't about you. It's a silent question your body asks her body. And if you ask the wrong question, she answers with distance, even without consciously realizing it. I'm going to tell you something I've never shared in any other video. Years ago, there was a man who hugged me in a way I simply couldn't explain at the time. All I knew was that, in that hug, I felt safe in a way I'd never felt before. It wasn't until I studied behavioral psychology that I understood exactly what he had done, and that's what I'm going to teach you now, step by step. Want to know what question your hug is asking without you even realizing it? Then pay close attention, because now I'm going to break down every detail, with real examples, so you don't walk away from this with just pretty theory. Let's start with the moment before the hug even happens, because that's where most men already mess up before they even get close to her. Before the hug begins, it has already begun. The way you approach says more than any words you'll say afterward. Picture the scene. You're at a party or meeting up after work, and you spot her across the room. If you cross that space walking fast, shoulders leaning forward, almost rushing toward her, her body picks up on that before you even open your mouth. She senses a man who needs that hug, who's anxious to reach it. Now picture the opposite. You walk at your own pace, glancing around, greeting other people along the way if it makes sense, and only then do you turn your full attention to her, with a relaxed smile. No rush at all. That completely changes the energy that reaches her. It's not about deliberately taking your time. It's about not carrying urgency in your body. I've seen this destroy entire relationships, and that's not an exaggeration. I know stories of incredible men, smart, successful in their careers, who completely lost a woman's attraction just because the energy of their approach screamed neediness, without them even realizing it. One of them once told me he always felt rejected in the first few minutes of any date, and when we talked it through, it became clear the problem wasn't what he said. It was how he arrived. He arrived like someone asking for something, not like someone offering company. Do you approach like someone who needs, or like someone who chooses? Sit with that for a second before you keep watching. Now let's move to the second point, which is simple to apply, but devastatingly effective once you understand the reason behind it. Never hug a woman without connecting with her eyes for 2 or 3 seconds first. It sounds small, I know, but let me give you a real-world example. Think of a common situation, like picking a woman up for dinner or seeing someone again after some time apart. If you walk up, say a quick hey, and go straight for the hug without even fully meeting her eyes, her brain processes that almost like an automatic mechanical gesture, the kind she'd get from any acquaintance. Now, if you walk up, look into her eyes for a moment, smile genuinely, let that second of silence happen before opening your arms. Her body understands that there's intention there, there's presence, there's someone recognizing her as a person before touching her physically. I tested this on myself in completely different situations over the years, with different people, different contexts, and the pattern repeated itself in an almost eerie way. When the eye contact came before the touch, the connection was instantly deeper, almost tangible. When the touch came without that moment of presence, it was just some hug, the kind you forget the same day. Comment below. Do you usually make eye contact before hugging, or do you go straight for the touch on autopilot? I really want to know your answers, because it tells me a lot about where you are on this journey of presence. Third secret, and this one is more technical, but essential, and I'm going to explain it in a very practical way so you can apply it today. Hand placement matters far more than most people think. Hand on the back, between the shoulder blades, in the middle of the back, with light pressure, never on the lower back, near the waist. Let me explain why. When the hand drops too low, even with completely innocent intentions, her body interprets that as a signal of accelerated physical intent, and that can create immediate discomfort, even if she doesn't say anything in the moment. But when the hand stays higher, at shoulder blade level, with firm but gentle pressure, the kind of hug that really conveys warmth instead of urgency, her body genuinely relaxes. I've heard several women talk about this without even realizing that's exactly what they were describing. A friend of mine once described a date by saying, "He hugged weird, kind of rushed." And when I asked for details, she described exactly that lower, more intense touch. Without that initial sense of warmth, she couldn't even explain it technically. She just knew she'd felt uncomfortable. Have you ever stopped to think about what your hands are saying without you realizing it? Most men never have, and that's exactly why they keep wondering why certain women close themselves off physically around them early on. Fourth secret, and here I need you to really pay attention, because this is one of the ones that makes the biggest difference in practice. The length of the hug completely changes its emotional outcome. 3 seconds is politeness, it's courtesy, it's the social minimum, like the quick hug you'd give a coworker. 6 to 8 seconds is real connection. It's the time it takes for the body to start releasing oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding, for that sense of genuine closeness. Picture a concrete scene. You reunite with someone special after time apart, and instead of letting go quickly, you let those extra seconds happen. No tension, no discomfort, just presence. That extra time is what turns an ordinary, "Hey, good to see you," into a memory she carries with her. A hug that's too short, she forgets it the next minute. It's just another social gesture of the day. A hug that's too long, without purpose, without real presence, feels off to her, and the energy turns into discomfort instead of connection. The secret lies exactly in that middle ground, and the only way to get it right is by paying genuine attention to the moment, not mentally counting seconds like a robot. This one alone already changes the game for most men watching this video. But the next secret is what really makes her want to get close again, and again, and again. If you've made it this far, hit like on this video right now. Seriously, it helps this content reach more men who need to hear this, and it only takes 2 seconds of your time, and I'm genuinely grateful for every like on this channel. Fifth secret, sync your breathing with hers. I know it sounds silly at first, but the human body recognizes rhythm long before it recognizes words. Let me give you a very concrete example of this. Imagine you're hugging someone and you notice her breathing is faster, maybe because she rushed to get there, or she's anxious about something going on in her day. If you keep your own breathing calm, deep, unhurried, her body naturally starts adjusting to your rhythm, almost like a quiet contagion. This is a real, studied phenomenon called physiological synchrony, and it happens constantly between people who are close, even when neither of them notices consciously. Calm, controlled breathing conveys presence, and presence these days is the rarest aphrodisiac there is. We live in a time when everyone is anxious, everyone has a phone in hand, everyone is somewhat absent even when physically there. A man who can simply breathe slowly, be present, unhurried, without anxiety, already stands out from 90% of the other men she's known, just for that alone. How many men do you know who can stay present without being anxious? Really think about it before you answer, because the number is probably a lot smaller than you'd imagine, and maybe you yourself need to work on this more than you think. Sixth secret, and almost nobody teaches this one, because it seems counterintuitive. Don't speak right after letting go of the hug. Let the silence exist for 1-2 seconds. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. After a hug, most men's instinct is to fill the moment with some line like, "Wow, so good to see you. You look great today." Anything to break that instant. But if you simply let that silence happen for a second or two, looking at her with a slight smile, no desperation to say something, that small gap creates tension, and tension used well, without rushing, is pure attraction. Most men are afraid of silence. They fill the space with anything just to relieve their own discomfort. And that's exactly the discomfort a woman senses, even without rationally understanding why, because the silence of an insecure man carries a completely different energy than the silence of a confident one. The mistake most men make right after that silence is exactly what I'm about to tell you now. In secret number 7, the one I told you at the very start of this video was the most important. 7th secret. After you hug, don't ask for validation. Don't ask if it felt good. Don't search her eyes for approval. Don't sit there waiting for a sign that you did the right thing. Let me show you how this shows up in practice, because it's more subtle than it sounds. Sometimes it's not an explicit question like, "Did that feel good?" It's a micro expression on your face. A slightly anxious look waiting for a reaction, a right, tacked onto the end of the next sentence. All of that communicates the same thing: uncertainty, a need for external confirmation. Whoever asks for validation hands over their power. A man who feels secure within himself doesn't need to confirm anything with anyone. He simply is. He simply exists in that moment without needing any outside approval. I'll confess something to you. This was one of the hardest things to notice in the men who've been in my life. The ones who asked for approval all the time, in an almost invisible way, were exactly the ones I was least attracted to, even when they were great people, even when they had incredible qualities in other areas of life, and the ones who were simply present, without needing any confirmation at all, were the ones I couldn't stop thinking about afterward, even when the time we spent together was short. Do you hug to receive approval, or because you genuinely want to be close? That question might sound simple, but it reveals almost everything about the energy you carry into any interaction, not just hugs. 8th secret, and this one is about your whole body, not just the hug itself. Body posture, open shoulders, straight spine, neutral chin. The body speaks before the mouth opens. Picture a very common scene. 2 men walking into the same room, one with hunched shoulders, looking down, walking almost shrunken in on himself, and the other with open shoulders, straight spine, calmly looking around. Even before either of them says a single word, the whole room already reacts differently to each one. A hunched, tense, shrunken posture conveys insecurity, even if your voice is saying exactly the right words, exactly the perfect line. Women, most of the time, don't process this consciously, but their nervous system picks up on that information instantly, almost like an automatic radar. 9th secret, and hardly any men take this one seriously, but it works in a surprising way. Scent. Yes, this matters far more than most people realize. Smell is directly linked to emotional memory, much more than sight or hearing, and that's scientifically proven. A distinctive, present, well-chosen scent makes her associate you with an entire feeling, not just a single moment. Have you ever noticed how sometimes you catch a smell on the street and, out of nowhere, you remember a specific person, a specific moment, even years later? That's exactly the mechanism that happens with her in relation to you, if the right scent is present during that memorable hug. That means that, weeks later, a similar scent, in an elevator, in a restaurant, can bring you right back to her mind, without her even consciously wanting it, without any effort on your part. And the last secret, the 10th, is the one most men will never discover on their own, because it isn't a technique, it's a whole way of living. 10th secret, the perfect hug doesn't come from any technique. It comes from clear intention. A woman senses, almost instinctively, the difference between a man who hugs because he wants to, and a man who hugs because he needs to fill some inner void. Let me give you one last example to wrap this all up. You could apply each of the previous 9 secrets perfectly. The right approach, the right eye contact, the hand in the right place, the right timing, synced breathing, strategic silence, no need for validation, flawless posture, a memorable scent. But if underneath all of that there's a man who's needy, anxious, who needs that moment to feel good about himself, she'll feel it. She won't be able to explain how she felt it, but she will. And that's exactly what makes her fall for you. Not the hug itself, but the whole man standing behind that gesture. I've spent years observing this, studying this, living it firsthand, talking with dozens of women about this exact topic, and I've reached a conclusion I want to make very clear to you right now. No technique on its own will work if there isn't a man behind it who's secure in who he is. The techniques I taught you here today are powerful tools. Genuinely, they make a real, immediate difference, but they only reach their full strength when they come from the inside out, when they come from a place of real security, not manipulation, not desperation, not neediness dressed up as a pretty strategy. If this video opened your eyes in some way, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, comment below which of these 10 secrets you're going to start applying today. I read every comment, and sometimes I even reply personally. Second, hit like, because that literally decides whether this content reaches other men who need to hear exactly what you just heard. And third, subscribe to the channel, because I bring content like this every week, straight from real female psychology. No fluff, no magic formula, just truth. I want to leave you with one last reflection before you go. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to memorize every one of these secrets like some robotic script, running through a mental checklist while you hug someone. That'll just make you more tense. Above all, you need to become the kind of man who isn't afraid to be present, who isn't afraid of silence, who doesn't need approval to feel like enough. These 10 secrets are just the entry point. What truly transforms how women feel around you is the work you do on yourself, every single day, even when no one's watching, even when there's no woman around to impress. If you made it this far, you're already ahead of most people, because most people give up halfway through, or never even start paying attention to these details. Now it's time to move from theory to practice the next chance you get. See you in the next video.